In this video, we're going to solve the radical equation, the square root of 3x minus 20 plus 2 is equal to 1. And we only want to solve for values of x where x is a real number, so keep that in mind. So anytime you're solving or working on a radical equation like this, what you want to do, just like with absolute value equations, is you want to isolate the term with the square root. So we do the same thing with the absolute value equations we've talked about already. You get that term by itself, and then you deal with the absolute value part. Well, it's going to be the same thing here. We want to isolate the square root. I'll circle it in blue. And once we get that by itself, then we want to deal with what we have left over. Now, there are a couple of cases that could happen. Once you get the radical term by itself, you could either be equal to a number like 0 or a positive number. That's good. At that point, you can keep going. Or you could end up to where it's equal to a negative number. And what's going to happen there, just like with the absolute value equations, is you're going to have no solution. For a different reason, but you'll have the same result. So let's go ahead and isolate our radical term for this problem. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And that's going to isolate the square root on the left-hand side, the square root of 3x minus 20. And then on the right-hand side, we'll have 1 minus 2, which gives us negative 1. So right there, we can stop because negative 1, of course, is a negative number. And if that happens, then you can go ahead and say your answer is no solution. And the reason for that is what we're really doing here when we're taking the square root is to make this like a function. It has to be just the principal square root. So we're looking for when you take a square root of a number, it to equal a positive number. Just like when we do these particular problems and whenever you square both sides you end up with a polynomial, you may end up with 2 different solutions, but you have to go back and check your work to where you only take the positive square root. And that's how you figure out which answer is the right one, because we introduced another solution. So it's the kind of the same logic that you'll see in future problems like this that kind of multiply out to give us quadratics. Same thing. What you're saying here is the square root of this quantity is equal to a negative number, and we only want positive numbers for these types of problems to work. So the answer is no solution, and that's always going to be the case. If you isolate the square root term and it's equal to a negative number, you stop right there and say no solution. Now, of course, the 0 with the slash through it means no solution. You could also write out no solution in words. And you also may see the empty set, the set of braces with nothing in it. That means the empty set. All of those things that I'm going to square off in red mean the same thing. Take your pick.